Hi, my name is April Punsalan, and today we are going to walk through the Maritime Forest with Lynn Pierotti, who is the publisher for Lucky Dog Publishing, and he does this gorgeous magazine, SiP magazine. And so we're going to walk through and we're going to learn some medicinal and edible plants that grow in the Maritime Forest that you should know and everyone should know along the coast.
I'm Lynn Pierotti. I'm the publisher at Lucky Dog Publishing. We're the proud publishers of SiP magazine, the lifestyle magazine for Sullivan's Island and Isle of Palms. And we're out here on Sullivan's Island in our beautiful maritime forest with April Punsalan. And we're going to take a walk through here on Earth Day and discover some of the things that are out here. April, why am I walking through the woods with you today?
So you're walking through the woods with me today because it's Earth Day and it's the perfect day to reconnect to the earth and to learn the native flora. So I'm a botanist and an ethnobotanist, which is a person who studies how people use plants, how people interact with plants. And so one of the best ways you can reconnect with the earth is by using or learning how to use the native flora, how to connect with the native flora. So I'm going to be showing you some plants that you can incorporate into your life to increase your wellness and vitality and how you can use them every day. And so there are a lot of plants that are medicinal and edible on this trail. Probably like 25 plants.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing some of them. Y'all want to go this way?
So this plant, because Lynn mentioned it, he said he grew up eating mulberries,
Yeah,
right?
he did.
Which is really cool because this is one of my,
Oh, there's one right there.
and look, it's starting to fruit.
A small one.
And so this plant isn't native, it's native to Japan, but it is loaded with medicine, so it's good to know it. The Latin name is Morus alba, and the leaves make a wonderful tea, and actually in Japan they drink it as a cure for hangovers. It's loaded with vitamins and minerals. So it's called the anti-aging tree and also anti-grain. So it has vitamin A and vitamin B and minerals, calcium, manganese and iron. So it's really good to harvest. And so yesterday I just did a class and we made tea and I got everyone to drink it. And so you just harvest the leaves and you can dry them or you can make the tea fresh. And you would want to get about a handful and then you cut it up and you, just like you're making any kind of tea, you boil the water and then you pour the water over the leaves and you let it steep for like 10 minutes. And you can let it steep overnight too and you'll get even more vitamins and minerals and it brews like a really dark brown color, which is nice. But I harvest them every year and I dry them and I have about a jar this big that lasts me through the year. And then of course the fruit is a superfood. So the fruit is loaded with antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and is considered anti-cancer. It's good for people with diabetes. This tea, by the way, is amazing for people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes. And so it's a wonderful tree to get to know. It's naturalized, it's not exactly invasive, like we will see Chinese tallow tree, which wreaks havoc on ecosystems. This one kind of, you just see it dotting the landscape, more or less. It doesn't like form a thick monoculture. Yeah,
cool.
so it's a
see
good
what
one.
that tallow looks like.
Yeah.
Now, this is the old school honeysuckle, right? This doesn't have any benefit.
Look, they're both by each other.
Exactly. I could sit here and eat all day.
They're like, hi Lynn, remember us?
that was my childhood right there.
It's awesome. So yeah, the honeysuckle dust. It's cool you mentioned that because I actually taught this yesterday as well. You can harvest the flowers before they open. And so you harvest the flowers before they open and it's antiviral and it reduces fever. So say you got a flu.
Right.
You could take those leaves that you harvested right now or the flowers that you harvested right now and make a tea with them. Okay. So you want to get the flowers before they open up. So you wouldn't want to harvest.
I see one right here, like this one right here.
Exactly. You want to harvest this right here.
Cool.
Yep. And if you try it, if you eat it, you'll see that it's really bitter. And a lot of bitter herbs are antiviral and they're good for fighting the cold. And this is also good for fevers. So yeah, they use it in Japan all the time. And then when they harvest it like this and then they dry it. You can buy it right now. Just Google honeysuckle tea.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a good first stop.
Yeah, that was great. So I figured we could talk about Eastern Red Cedar. It's one of my favorite medicinal plants. It's right here.
Right.
And so Eastern Red Cedar is Juniperus virginiana. So in botany, you have to learn the Latin name. And that is a form of communication because I can communicate with anybody around the world about this plant. Because the Latin name doesn't ever change, where the common name does. So in other countries, when they talk about this species, they call it juniper. We're like the only country that actually call this species a cedar. So it gets a little confusing. But it is considered a juniper, Juniperus virginiana. And around the world, in 125 different countries, people burn this as an incense, as a smudge to remove negative energy and to purify space. And also I use this plant to cleanse my sinuses. So it's antiviral and antimicrobial. It's loaded, let me get my clippers, it's loaded with essential oils that are antiviral and antibacterial. So you can smell it. So you just crush up the leaf, and you can even eat a little bit. See how it smells real, like almost like pine. It's a carnivorous plant. So it's a gymnosperm. We call these the naked seed plants. And it has little cones. But what you want to do with this, so say you get a bad sinus infection and you can't even breathe, where your cheeks feel bruised. You want to get about a handful of this and bring a pot of water to a boil and put the Eastern Red Cedar in there and cover your face with a towel over that pot as the steam comes up. So after it comes to a boil, turn off the oven or the stove top and bring that pot, to your kitchen table, put it on a hot plate and cover your face for like 10 minutes.
Really?
Yes. I did it one time and the next day it was gone. My sinus infection was gone. And so I feel bad for a lot of people that have to take antibiotics when they get a sinus infection, because a lot of people do.
Right.
You don't need to do that. All you need to do is go out and harvest some Eastern Red Cedar and do a steam facial. Because what it's going to do is it's going to open up your sinuses, and it's antibacterial. Yeah. Okay. So it's an amazing plant. But like I was telling you, of course, people have used this for a smudge as an incense. So I teach people how to make bundles out of it with twine, and then when it dries, you light it. And so after you clean your home, you light it to help cleanse the air.
Okay.
Yeah, and so people have been doing that. Like the indigenous did it when they would name their babies, their children, and also when someone passed away to help the spirit go to the upper world.
Nice. You want to put that in your basket?
Sure. So yeah, that's Eastern Red Cedar, Juniperus virginiana.
Now,
and, oh, go ahead.
The juniper, so this doesn't berry. I hear about juniper berries all the time. It's not the same thing?
It does. It is the same thing. So it does, and that's what gin, has been made out of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They make a good juniper gin here in South Carolina.
That's right. And so people in the 1800s would come and they would collect the berries and they would make a gin. And Francis Porcher, who was a botanist here, he was a medical doctor. He has a recipe in his book that talks about adding orange rinds and peach rinds and the juniper berries and making a medicinal gin. And so they would actually drink it, like they would prescribe like 3 wine glassfuls a day, but just a small amount in the wine glass full. And they didn't take it, to get a buzz or get drunk. They actually did it for medicine, which I find very interesting. And there was a guy I met at the farmer's market who told me that he has digestive problems. The doctor couldn't figure it out, but after he would take, a little shot of gin after he'd eat dinner, he was okay. And so I thought about Francis Porcher, prescribing this gin and making this decoction, if you will, that helped restore people's health. So yeah, the juniper berry is not surprising because essentially you're almost making a tincture, right, with the berry. And I do eat the berries. It's really not a berry, it's a seed cone that looks like a berry, but it's okay to call it a berry. And you can eat them, and it's a diuretic. So it helps to stimulate the kidneys and flush out the urinary system. And it also helps to regulate weight because it will curb your appetite. So if you're ever out foraging or you're ever out just walking, and it's in the fall when the berries will be, right now, it's Earth Day, it's spring, so we can't harvest any, but in the fall you can harvest some. And I love eating them. I eat them when I'm working and I'm writing. snack on them.
We'll have to come back in the fall.
Yeah,
and
you
try
have to
some.
come back. And you can make a bath with this. So this is anti-inflammatory too. So
How would you
can
run
make,
it in your bath?
So you would have to make a decoction with it. So you'd have to bring a pot of water to a boil, put the stems in there, and then turn it off and cover it for like 35 minutes until you can smell the oil is in the water.
Okay.
And then you pour out this because you want to add that to your bath, and then you just pour the water in your bath.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Or you could just soak your feet, or you could soak a rag and put it, you know, whether it's your shoulder or your neck, whatever's hurting. Yeah. So it's a really good, this is one of my favorite medicinal plants. It's a really good medicinal plant to know because it's easy to identify if you think about it. Like, I don't think you're gonna get that wrong.
No, you'll recognize that
Yeah.
one. So far, I can recognize the 3 that we've done.
Good,
But
good. So you see too, it has shredding bark. So that's another diagnostic feature for it. And this is native. So unlike mulberry and the honeysuckle, which we saw, which is non-native, this is our native species. And this is probably a very old tree because they grow extremely slow.
oh, really?
Yes, really slowly.
How long would you estimate that old that tree is?
Oh, I'd probably say like 50 years, maybe older. I'm not that great at predicting how old. You really would have to core it. You can get a little core and
Right.
pull it out. But you know, a lot of ships and boats, and of course the indigenous make canoes out of this wood because it's rot resistant. So if you think about cedar boxes,
Okay.
you know, and insects don't like it.
Yeah. Cedar closet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is exciting though. When they told me about the idea, you know, I appreciate this for other reasons. It's such a great hike. It's beautiful.
Right,
the nature.
right.
That, we have great bird banding stations in here. But the thought that we could actually, you know, find stuff to eat and cure ourselves, you know, makes it even that better.
It does. It really does, because really in America, we have the highest healthcare costs in the world. The highest. And we use the least amount of our flora for medicine. So in other countries, they use 80% of their plants for medicine and food.
Of them. Sorry, we got some of them.
They're already
Some of 'em
right.
fallen, the
That's
mulberries.
awesome. So, oh, we should eat some.
I'll eat some.
Eat some.
Yeah. I ain't scared. There's a nice ripe one. You want one?
Yeah, thanks. Oh, they're big. Oh my goodness, they're delicious.
These are all good.
Oh.
And this really does. It brings me back to a kid. I used to climb up in the tree and sit up there and eat them.
Yeah, there's nothing better than that. And you gotta think, so the fruit that we buy and the food that we buy from the grocery store has, like, I read an article that there's only 60 more cycles left in some of these farms that have been producing food for us forever. And so there's not, everything is returning back to here.
Right.
The plant is having to resist natural pathogens. And so this plant is loaded with way more vitamins and minerals than if you get the blueberries from the grocery store. Because that land has been producing, you know, and it's hard to return back. You're asking a lot from the system.
This hasn't been picked, packed, shipped, stored.
Exactly.
You just pick it right off and eat it.
And another thing I want to say about foraging wild food is that you will be more satisfied. Because you're getting more vitamins and nutrients, you're going to feel more full. I've started to notice that. When I eat like packaged food or food from the grocery store, you feel hungry. You know what I mean? Like if you're eating chips or you're eating something, you're just aimlessly eating because your body's not really getting any nutrients or vitamins.
Right.
And so when you eat nutrient-dense food, you're actually going to eat less because you're going to be more satisfied.
Nice. Let's go
Yeah.
find some more.
So this is what we're going to talk about.
Right.
And then we'll talk about prickly ash, which is super fun, which I might get you to, if you want to chew on some, you can. So this is wax myrtle, Morella cerifera. It has a beautiful Latin name, Morella. And before the advent of electricity, this is what people used to light their homes. And so people would come from like the mid part of South Carolina with their whole family, and they would set up a camp, and they would go out and cut the branches down, and then they would set up a fire in the middle of their camp, and they would pour pull the berries off to make the candles. The kids would. Right now the berries aren't on here because it's more in the fall, but it's pretty amazing that you can take the fruit of a plant and make a candle to light your home. It does take a lot, so you need about a quart of berries, and that only makes 1/3 cup of wax. But it's a lot of fun to do. It's a lot of fun to do with it's a lot of fun to do with your family and friends, right?
Right.
And what I think, to be honest, because I'm an herbalist, is that I want to take the wax and make salves. So instead of using beeswax, you could use it for your skin, you know, for around your eyes or for wounds, because this is really anti-inflammatory too. It's loaded with essential oils. So if you just crush those leaves, you're going to be able to smell the beautiful bayberry smell.
Well, that is nice.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
And
Is that what the candles smell like when they burn?
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a green flame. But if you look on the underside of the leaf, you see it has these gold dots, gold glands, and that's how you can identify it. And then also it has a little bit of serration at the tip. But this is extremely common coastal plain plant, but it's very medicinal. And so I feel like we take it a little for granted because it's so common, but it makes a wonderful cup of tea. And actually in the 1800s and early 1900s, they drank it regularly as tea. And so you can just harvest, you know, a handful and make a cup of tea out of it, and it's a diuretic. So this is good for people that have urinary tract infections or kidney stones because it flushes out the system, and for people that hold on to water weight. You know, some women hold on to a lot of water, and so this is good for women that feel kind of bloated or heavy.
Gotcha.
Another thing that it's good for is bathing. And so you can make a decoction out of this too. And in the Bahamas, they make a decoction and bathe women in it when they're right before they're going to give birth, because it prepares the uterus for birth, because it's so astringent. And this is the strength in knowing the properties of a plant, because plants that are high in tannins, kind of like the blackberry I was showing you, and this plant, they're astringent. So they help to tighten and tonify our stomach, and they help to tighten and tonify the uterus. So yeah, you can chew a little bit and you can taste how drying it is and how astringent and how many tannins are in it. Can you kind of taste that a little bit? How it's drying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is in your mouth.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's what it does in your body. So it helps to move things and flush things and to tighten and tonify. And so this was considered one of the most important medicinal plants in the 1800s because they didn't have clean water.
Right.
So a lot of people had what they call dysentery, diarrhea. And so this really helped tighten up and tonify the digestive system and kill the bacteria at the same time, because there's peer-reviewed journal articles on this that shows that it's antibacterial against staph, against E. coli, and all, like a whole suite of different types of bacteria. And so it's no wonder that this was one of the most important medicinal herbs in the 1800s, because they were exposed to so much bacteria in their water. So yeah, so if you go traveling and you come back and you have a stomach bug, or, you know, you just, for people that have maybe even blood in their stool, this is a good plant. If they have digestive issues, this would be a go-to, or even urinary issues. You don't want to drink a lot for a long time because it is going to make you really thirsty. So you have to make sure you drink enough water. Okay.
This plant is in the news out here lately because we have a plan now to kind of cut these down from, this is a nice tall one, but they're going to cut them down to 3 feet. Will 3 feet still allow them to produce fruit? And
I think so.
Okay,
I
good.
think 3 feet will, yeah. What do you think? How tall do you think this one is? Like
6
5,
feet?
6
So,
feet,
yeah.
yeah. It probably will. You know, some may struggle. It depends on what time they cut them. You know, like you can see right here, and the male and the female are on different plants. And so actually the fruit is produced on the second year's growth. And so this is this year's, and then this is last year's. And so hopefully, and I think it will, it probably depends more on the age of the plant than it does the height of the plant. Yeah. In terms of fruit production. So these flowers are going to mature into these amazing berries
Right.
that you could use as a spice. And what that spice is going to do is it's going to help to tonify your digestive system, it's going to help you digest your food more fully, and it's going to help increase your circulation. So for me, this is a really good plant because I have bad circulation, and a lot of women in my family do. So I love this plant, and I made a tincture from it, and I teach people how to make medicine from it. It's a southeast endemic plant, and so I think its range is like South Carolina down to Florida. Oh, here you go, you can chew that one.
And you just chew the whole stem?
Yeah, just chew the outer. It's mostly the outer bark, but you can just take it and kind of chew it until you taste the medicine.
Oh, I can definitely taste it.
Yeah.
It numbs up.
Yeah, it makes your mouth tingle and it numbs your mouth a little bit.
Sure does.
And so it was known as toothache tree, and it was used by the indigenous when they would have a toothache, and they would just take a piece of it and wedge it, and the tooth that was rotten.
It's got kind of a citrus flavor to it too.
Well, that's awesome you say that, because it's in the citrus family. High five.
How about
Yeah.
that? Not just another pretty face.
No. I would love to do like the flora of this area and be able to key out every single plant. Because there's actually a lot of diversity. The more I come back at different times of the year, the more I realize how much plant diversity is actually here. Every time I come, I learn a new plant.
You know, until you pointed it out, I didn't notice it. Now I'm seeing them everywhere.
Good,
You know?
good. Like this.
Right.
This is passion flower. So
This right here?
yeah, so that has a beautiful purple flower, and I've actually never seen, it's so funny because right when I said that, this popped out. There it is right there and right there. And actually if we open this up, it would probably grow a little bit more. It's stunted, but this is the best nervine, and people buy this all the time at health food stores. This helps with sleep. Actually, I could have used this the last couple of days. This really helps with sleep. So for people that wake up at like 2 or 3 in the morning
Right.
and have trouble going back to bed, this is their plant. And you can make a tea from the leaves. And if you go to any health food store and you look up a nervine or something for the nerves, you're gonna see passion flower in it. And this is native. And so I think this is another one that everyone should grow. The spiderwort, the passion flower, and the eastern horsemint. Because they're easy.
Yeah,
and
you
they're
have it right there in
gorgeous.
your yard. You walk out your back door.
Right, and the pollinators. So the fritillary butterflies, or sorry, the swallowtail butterflies lay their eggs on this.
Oh, really?
Yes, and they'll eat it all, the caterpillars will eat it all up, but it will always come back. And every time I watch it, I'm like, gosh, they're starving. They're starving for this plant because they chew it all up. There's not enough.
Again, is that something that you can buy locally?
See, you could buy it, but then I'm always curious
on
as
where it's coming from.
yes, because you can get passion flower from like the genotypes from another state, and so it's nice to be able to have something that's adapted locally, and then you're not mixing. But I think Roots and Shoots Nursery probably has a local genotype, and they're the best native plant nursery we have. Roots and Shoots, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Free plug there for Roots and Shoots.
Yeah. And Sea
Y'all want
Island,
to advertise next year?
and Sea Island savory herbs too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look how it was growing originally. That's just one branch off of that willow.
Yes, so you could tell that they cut it back for the trail. But willow, this is our native willow, so this is Salix caroliniana. And willow has salicylic acid in it. And it is what we use to synthesize aspirin. So this is a pain reliever, a fever reducer. It's amazing herb. It's anti-inflammatory, and so the indigenous, if they would break their leg, they would use willow. They would bring it into their sweat lodges and put it on top of the rocks. They would wrap, you know, their feet in it. They would actually, if they were gonna walk for a long time, they would put the leaves in their shoes. That's how much medicine the plant has.
Wow.
Yeah, and when the women would go for long walks, they would make like a head wreath out of it, kind of like I have on because the leaves are long. And you can tell this one because the underside of the leaf is white. And this one is one of those that you can just stick in water. So if you want a cutting, I can get you a cutting.
And it'll grow from there.
It will grow because
Oh,
I have
fantastic.
one. It's beautiful already. And I just did it like two months ago.
Are
and
these
it's
slow
already like this
growing,
big.
old growing,
It's fast.
Okay.
You just don't want to plant it really close to your house because I've heard that willow trees will go to the pipes.
Okay.
And so you want to plant it kind of in the corner of your home. So the Creek Indigenous group had 4 sacred herbs. one was willow, one was yopon, which we still have to talk about, one was rattlesnake master, and one was ginseng. And those were their 4 most sacred herbs because they were almost all like a panacea. They healed so many different things. And willow is one of those that it can heal so much. But it's probably the most popular that we know is anti-inflammatory, right? So when you get inflammation in your body, you take that anti-inflammatory or aspirin,
Sure.
and that was synthesized from this originally. And so in Germany, you can still get prescription willow for arthritis. Here you can't as much. And so the other thing that we've seen about willow is that it's anti-cancer for people that have chronic inflammation. Because whenever there's chronic inflammation in the body, that can lead to cancer.
All right, now we're coming on your one of your favorites. What's your next one we're looking for?
So yopon.
Yopon.
Yopon holly. So yopon is our only caffeinated plant in North America. And it is by far one of the plants that you should remember and everyone should know because it's loaded with antioxidants. It has saponins that have been shown to be anti-cancer and weight regulating, and they help lower blood pressure. And it is, I mean, it's our only caffeinated plant in North America, and it grows right here. So we will see it soon. It'll pop up.
It is nice though, just from the beginning of our walk to the end, starting to recognize some of these things.
Good. I'm glad you're recognizing them. So this is yopon holly, Ilex vomitoria. And so when you want to harvest it for the tea, so this makes best cup of tea. This would be the freshest, most sustainable cup of tea you could get.
Of course.
Yes. And so you want to harvest the top portion, the top 1/3 portion, the green leaves.
Okay.
And
the lighter green?
Yep, the lighter green. And right now is a good time to make a cup of yopon tea. And so what you'd want to do, and it's okay to have some of these older ones too, they're just going to have more cellulose, so they're going to be a little bit more bitter. But you want to take the leaves off like this. And then you would put them on a baking pan and don't let them touch, you know, spread them out.
Okay.
And then you can bake it at 200 degrees for 10 or 15 minutes. And then once it's done, you put it in a coffee grinder or something, a blender, and you pulverize it, get a lot of surface area, and then make it like you're making a cup of tea and use 1 tablespoon. And so this is a great thing to do as, you know, if you're having a party in June or you're having a bunch of people over. You could even have a fire and do it the traditional way, the way the indigenous people did it, is they would get a big pot over fire and they would put the leaves in there and they would roast them. And they would just turn them around until they were roasted and they would pour the water over the roasted leaves and make the tea right there.
Okay.
And so this was one of their most sacred herbs, and they said it was the herb of friendship and that it restored innocence. But it's our only caffeinated plant, and it's loaded with antioxidants and saponins, and you can buy it. There are some really good companies, Yopon Brothers and Cat Spring Yopon in Texas. It's a southeast endemic plant, so it grows from Norfolk, Virginia, south to Florida, and west into Texas. So we're kind of in the heart of its range.
Right.
So we're really fortunate to have this plant, and the indigenous people traded it as far west as Ohio.
Really?
Yeah, and they traded it for beads and clothes and blankets.
And again, it's native to here.
It's
too.
native, yeah.
Right.
This is our native Yopon, and so I think everyone should have this instead of like boxwood, right? It's better to have something that you can make tea out of. So in North Carolina in the early 1900s, they would actually, in the 1800s, they would boil brackish water with Yopon to cleanse the water good enough to drink.
Wow.
And so Yopon, because it has so many saponins, it is antimicrobial too, and it helps to cleanse things. It helps to cleanse our body. And so if you ever notice, Yopon barely has any pathogens. I mean, it is abundant, and that's because of the saponins. So insects really can't even chew it or eat on it very much because it's loaded with the saponins.
Does this ever berry or fruit or
Yeah.
anything?
So it's a holly.
Yeah, that's
and
what I was
so,
wondering. Does it get the red berries
yeah,
on it?
the red berries. That's
Okay,
the
cool.
female. So the male and the female are on different plants, and you wouldn't want to harvest from the female.
Okay.
So you wouldn't want to harvest the leaves that have the berries on there because more the energy and medicine is going to the fruit and then
Gotcha.
the leaves, yeah.
Can you do anything with the fruit?
No.
It's pretty.
Yeah, you can't do anything with the fruit. It's not edible. It is pretty. You
Yeah.
can make Christmas
The
arrangements
little
out
red
of it.
berries, yeah, I like them.
And it lets you know that it's a Yopon holly because it's a holly species. And there are several hollies that have caffeine, and one is yerba mate. And so yerba mate is this species' closest relative, and it grows in South America. And we have a $203 million yerba mate market here. And I used to sell Yopan tea at the farmer's market, and out of 10 people that would come up to me, I would say 5 knew of yerba mate, but only 1 person maybe Yopan.
Right.
And then maybe like only half of that 1 person knew that they could drink a tea from it. So for me, this was the plant that made me want to teach. So there's one thing I forgot to tell you about Yopan. So Yopan has theobromine in it, which is the same thing that's in dark chocolate, so it's mood enhancing. Yes,
good.
yes. So I drink 90% Yopan. I don't even drink green tea anymore. I was the biggest green tea drinker you ever met. I'm talking oolongs. I would go to Deborah Tea House in Asheville.
Right.
I was all about it. But then when I started drinking Yopan, I felt better. And then when I'd get the green tea, I'm like, oh, it tastes kind of stale.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll
love
have
it.
to try it.
All
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
drink is
give it a
Yopan.
shot.
You should.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful day.
It is pretty.
Perfect day to do this on Earth Day. You should teach this class every Earth Day.
Maybe I'll have to do that.
Yeah, we'll be happy to publicize it for you next year too, and put it in the newspaper, and maybe get a small group of people that are interested in doing it.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And maybe by then we'll have some native plants to give away from people, you know, that are developing their lands.
No, that's a great idea.
Wouldn't that be nice?
That's a super idea.
Because Charleston is growing at such a fast rate, and we're losing so much biodiversity that even the common plants are becoming rare. So we need to save all the plants we can and put them back on people's land.
I'm glad you took the time to do this for us, because it's important, because they're getting ready to put a managed plan out here. And the more information they have, the better. I think if people know, hey, this tree has this value, this tree has this intrinsic value, they may try to go around that one.
Yes,
you know, and
I hope so.
the more we can save, the better.
I agree with you. It is a paradise because this island is accreting, you know, and then because all the sand is diverted. So Morris Island's decreting, so we have to save this too for folly.
Yeah.
You know, and we don't have a lot of maritime forest that's intact with this diversity. I mean, the fact that there's prickly ash, there's passion flower, there's so much diversity. Southern germander, I mean, there's probably, you know, 150 plants that grow back there behind us. And there's a lot of diversity in birds and mammals, and so, yeah, making sure the web stays intact is important. We shape our environment in unbelievable ways. So it's so important for me from a plant conservation perspective to bring people back, to reconnect them, so then maybe they're a little bit more gentle and have a less of an impact on the earth.
No, I'll never walk through that woods the same way again without being able to identify a few things and snipping a few things here and throwing them in my mouth.
Good. Well, I'm gonna bring you some Yopan tea.
Yeah, I want to try that.
Yeah, I want you to try it.
You're definitely the ambassador for Yopan.
I'm telling you, I am. I'm like, everyone needs to drink Yopan. It'll never be the same. I mean, I drink it 90%. I barely ever drink black tea or green tea. You know how nice that is? And in the beginning, I would go buy like a bag of Numi green tea, and I'd feel kind of guilty. I'm like, what? Can I hide? Nobody's even doing this. And then I started to not like it. It just happened. I'm like, oh, I've been converted.
Well, that was one of the best walks I've taken through there. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
We'll see you soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.